The world champion of StarCraft 2 is facing off against the #1 player in the world. It's time for a best of 5 series that was recently played in a premier StarCraft 2 tournament, where game number 1, it takes place on the map Equilibrium. Now once again, for some reason, it's our Terran player who keeps facing off against Zergs on this particular map. He doesn't seem to mind playing this map so much, but honestly, in the games that I've seen him play on it, it just doesn't really seem to work out for him. Either way, with the blue Terran pieces from China, we have none other than Oliveira. His opponent in the top right, playing with the red Zerg drones. He's from Finland, and he goes by the nickname of Serral. That's how he pronounces his own name. Ooh, Oliveira apparently has decided to mix it up a little bit. We're gonna go for a proxy barracks on the other side of the map. Sadly for him, it looks like Serral is, literally predicting this. It's an interesting position. Luckily here for Oliveira, it's only a single barracks, but it getting scouted still certainly makes this build a whole lot more difficult. Ideally, you get across the map completely unseen, right? You want to be able to get that Reaper into your opponent's base and maybe snipe a drone or two at the absolute most. Serral, by the way, rallied right there in the dead center of this aquarium hamster ball looking thing. Anyways, at this point, he does see that indeed a barracks is building on his side of the map, and yeah, that's gonna make the defense quite a bit easier. So what exactly are we going to do? Well, it was already a hatchery into a gas geyser into a spawning pool. Not really that much he can really adjust at this point in time, but at the very least he can leave the drones in gas, right? He can make sure that he has got a bunch of Zerglings ready to go against that very first Reaper that will be coming across the map. Maybe Oliveira was planning on making multiple Reapers? Is it really still worth going for multiple Reapers when you do get spotted that early? At the very least, yeah, a bunker attempt here on the low ground would be nice, but one of the drones decided to go to the low ground as well to harass an SCV that could potentially be building one over here, and you know what? He's not even done just yet. Yeah, this is already a frustrating start right here for Oliveira. So 6 Zerglings are coming. 2 Queens are on the production tab as well. These Lynx, they're gonna take a little bit of time before they ultimately pop. A Reaper is already coming in, and it looks like it's gonna be a Marine on the back of this. Command Center is currently building. It's about halfway done on the low ground, so yeah, all things considered, this is honestly a pretty normal game for Oliveira. It's just that his barracks is on the other side of the map. Obviously, that means that a reactor on a factory, for example, is gonna take a lot longer to produce. Well, that SCV is gonna have to run, and that means that this bunker is gonna get shut down. I'm not in love with it, and neither apparently is Serral, at least not when it comes to how this Terran is performing so far. Serral has decided to leave the drones in gas, and he's rushing out what seems to be a BANELING bust. I honestly really like the idea of a BANELING bust here, albeit, oh my god, it's triple CC on the back of this here from Oliveira. That is super risky. This is a start that you really can't write home about as Terran, you know? Like, this is a start where you don't really get a whole lot done. You're not gonna be able to produce a lot of units, and on top of that, he's playing a super greedy follow-up. If Oliveira would be allowed to get away with this, it would actually be a pretty good game for him, because he's gonna be able to, well, pump up his economy and, well, maybe have 1, maybe 2 less Hellions available in the earlier stages of the game, but that's really about it. This is a style that Serral is unknown to play. He generally, look at him, splitting up the Zerglings as well. So even if this Reaper does see the Zerglings, he only sees these 4. So he hasn't actually seen the fact that there's a lot more Zerglings running across the map right now. These are hiding off to the side. Turns out it's the perfect amount of Lings as well to blow up a supply depot. 5 of those Lings are necessary, and Oliveira here, he thinks he's outsmarting the Zerg. Okay, he may see the Banelings. He does see the Banelings. Okay, 1 grenade ends up going down. A couple of those Banelings do jump into the air for joy, but I think this is already a disaster. Yeah, you need to create multiple layers to this wall off. There's no Hellions waiting yet. Like, they're so incredibly late. We're gonna go after both the depots. Oh my god, as well as that reactor. Excellent bit of splash damage right there by the finisher. And I think that's game. Yeah, you don't mess around with Serral in games like this. Maybe a couple years ago you could get away with it, but he's been mixing up his playstyle, and he's a lot more lethal with these cheesy builds when he needs to be. Not really his go-to strategy. It's not really something he enjoys to play so much, but it is something that he mixes in whenever he feels like it's a good choice. Well, only 5 SCVs remain. Apparently Oliveira's like, yeah, this is playable, this is okay. He does have triple CC, so if he can make, well, maybe a 3rd orbital command, honestly, with 3 mules, he can probably match the economy of the Zerg. So at least there's still a chance for him to macro his way out of this, but this is, for obvious reasons, a horrible situation. Liberator goes across the map. Hellions have been sidetracked as well. They're no longer at home. Lynx, I mean, they're going to be able to stream into the base. GG is cold. And Serral obtains an easy game number 1. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Heartlet. Frustrating game number 1 right there for Oliveira, but then again, it's almost expected. Equilibrium is just a very tough map for Terrans to go up against Zerg. So I've mentioned this already in a previous video too, but I can imagine not necessarily everybody watches every single one of my videos, although shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. With the new 9 maps that we have in the StarCraft 2 map pool these days, tournaments are switching up the way that they're doing map vetoes. So in the past, we used to have 7 maps in total in the map pool. Whenever there were, for example, a best of 3 series, right? Whenever a best of 3 series would be played, both players would get to take turns in vetoing 2 maps each, and then they would take turns with the map order that would be played. In a best of 5 series, the players would veto 1 map each, and then they would take turns to decide the map order, right? That's what we always did in StarCraft 2. With the new season, however, for the very first time, we now have 9 maps in the StarCraft 2 map pool. And rather than, say, in a best of 3 series, both players vetoing 3 maps each and then the maps being picked, tournaments instead have been doing a bit of a switch up, and there doesn't seem to be a standard just yet. So it's pretty common right now for players to veto 1 map each, then they choose a map. Then they veto another map, then they choose a map. Then they veto another map, then they choose a map, right? So ultimately, I think the idea for tournament organizers is that you get more map variety in your series. But for the players, obviously, it means that they have to play on maps that they don't necessarily enjoy playing on. So that might explain, I'm not exactly sure what this particular tournament did as far as the map vetoing process goes, but that might explain why these maps, like for example Equilibrium, are relatively common in a best of 5 or a best of 3 series. I can imagine that Oliveira ended up vetoing a map he didn't really like. Not exactly sure what he would veto, I guess, but overall it seems like Equilibrium is a safe first choice. But he may have vetoed, I don't know, any other map. Serral decided to pick Equilibrium. That would mean that Heartlet is going to be Oliveira's map pick. Long story short, tough map for Terran, tough loss for Terran. But it is what it is, right? It's almost an expected loss against especially the very best Zerg player in the world. This is a Cloak Benchy fake out. Oliveira trying to play a bit of a mind game right here on his opponent. So Serral comes in with that Overlord. He sees, yeah, he decides to cancel the upgrade. He sees the green light on inside of that tech lab that's attached to the starport. Oliveira cancels it. The reason why he's faking the Raven upgrade there is because it's cheaper than the actual Cloak Benchy upgrade. So it's just a single Benchy here. He's faking to his opponent that this is going to be double Cloaked Benchy, and Serral is going to have to respect it. He will have to start up Spore Crawlers within the next couple of seconds. Usually right about right now is when we see those Spore Crawlers coming up. And that alone can already deal a bunch of damage. On top of that, obviously, Zerg also lost a queen. Or, sorry, not a queen. An Overlord. A flying queen. Not quite. They used to fly back in the Brood War. It's a long time ago. Brenda still remembers. Back in the Brood Wars, she used to be able to fly. Sure, Brenda. Sure. Anyways, nice bit of harassment right here with these Hellions, but they're not really achieving too much. It's once again, by the way, a triple command center start here for Oliveira. So she's going to be able to, or she's going to be, I'm thinking of Brenda still. He's going to be able to get that economy pumping here very, very soon. Additional barracks coming up. Sorry, guys. Once my mind goes to Brenda, I just can't stop thinking about her. You know what it's like, right? Look at them. Brenda, Karen, Margaret, Lily. Ay, ay, ay. Lily, did you change your hair? I don't know why I consider them boomers, but they do really remind me of boomers. I think it's because they walk so slowly off creep, you know? It kind of looks like they need a cane to be able to walk off creep. At the very least, they have a lot of character. Absolutely. Plus, they're a queen, right? Plus, back in the day, they used to be able to fly, but these days they can only walk. Anyway, Serral's opening up Roach Ravager. He's decided to go for the Infestation Pit right now as well. +1/+1 upgrades. Not a lot of players are a huge fan of playing Roach Ravager against Terran at the moment. But Serral, yeah, he likes to mix it in. It's not a bad choice, that is for sure. We saw him do the same thing as well against Clem recently, so Not too surprising to see him bringing it up as well. I think it's just a safe, solid all-round build. It's just one of those builds that usually leads towards a late game for Zerg as well. So this is going to be a pre-7-minute hive. As soon as he's got the money for it, which he doesn't because he decides to start up 13 roaches right now. But I do expect that we're going to be seeing the hive here starting up momentarily. Is it still going to be pre-7 minutes though? Hey, it is. Thank you for making me sound smart. Appreciate that, Serral. Very nice. All right, so what exactly is Oliveira up to? Well, he's just producing more of these units that we see Terran players always produce. Nothing all too crazy. We have a 4th command center coming up as well. He's still sitting on 5 wrecks. This is just going to be, by the way, a bit of a roach speed attack. Bit of a skill check right here by Serral. I was gonna say, I don't think this is great. 1-1 upgrades are not yet done. Baneling Nest coming up, by the way. I expected a Hydra then already to be down and for him to transition into, say, for example, Ling Bane Hydra Lurker, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Curious to see if he's gonna go into melee upgrades next and maybe rush out a couple of Ultralisks. Is that what we're doing here? This is a bit funky. Macro Hedge comes up, so he's definitely transitioning towards Ling Bane. Trying to maybe confuse his opponent a little bit. The problem is now you have those ranged upgrades, right? Yeah, so he does go melee. Now you have those ranged upgrades, so the +1 missile upgrade for the roaches, but you're planning on transitioning away from roaches, so this always feels a bit awkward to me. Obviously, you can still play roaches for the foreseeable future, but they do fall off, so wouldn't it have been better to just go +2 melee instead of +1 missile? Maybe he felt like he needed the upgrade. Anyways, Oliveira may very well be able to punish his opponent, because Serral's getting a little bit fancy here, spending loads of money on things that aren't yet that useful, although these biles are big. Oh, well, actually, I thought they would be bigger than that. Somehow, some way, that's what she said. Somehow, some way, that second siege tank survived. The first one died, but I guess the bile was just ever so slightly leaning towards the right. One of them decides to sacrifice itself. One of the Ravagers, that is. There's the Viper spawning. Vipers with Blinding Cloud would be amazing. Roly-poly upgrades right here on the Banelings would also be sick. But none of that is available yet. So, awkward transition here from Serral. I'm not a fan of it at all. He's got tons of roaches still in the back. Yeah, nice punishment right here by Oliveira. Absolutely, this is what we want to see. Yeah, now finally the Vipers are here. Hello, Serral? Oh, whoa, 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 okay. Flying a little too far forward. I think ultimately, though, Zork's reinforcements should be able to clean this up. But yeah, great example right there of what Oliveira can do when he catches his opponent in a weird transition. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of that roach-based style into Ling Bane. Oftentimes it's fine. Oftentimes Terrans will not punish the opponent when they're making that transition, but Oliveira sniffed it out. He's like, you know what? This smells like Banelings to me. And I saw roaches earlier, and I see a hive. I've got a feeling that my opponent is going to be very vulnerable right now. I think Serral can get away with those transitions quite frequently because not a lot of Zerg players play that style. So a lot of Terrans are like, I guess I'll just let it slide this time, because what are the odds of me facing against that again in the future? Well, it turns out they're not zero. Okay, so does that put him in a good position? Absolutely. Currently, we're talking, well, 4.5 command center right here for Terran. Ghost Academy coming up. We're going Drilling Claws as well. Love that transition towards Drilling Claws here. I think it's much better than playing additional siege tanks. Barra Bomb over here. Good split. Yeah, that hatchery is looking a little juicy, but I don't think there's quite enough available. Push over here as well on the left side. Only a Widow Mine is going to explode. Beautiful, beautiful split right there. I just want to emphasize that I have tried... Sorry, I'm just going to go back here. This little sequence of events, I have tried in my own games so many times, and I will tell you that I mess it up about 50% of the time, and I lose everything in the process. If you split off the wrong Zergling, you lose so much. It's little things like that, man, that make all the difference. I understand that isolation, it may not be that impressive, but there's so much going on here at the same time. Maybe not at that particular moment, but still. You can imagine, right? There's always that one guy in the YouTube comments that's like, Lowko, you're impressed by that? I'm in Gold League and I can do that move. Sure, Gold League hero. Sure you can. I've seen a lot of Gold League replays, my man. Let's just say that I'm not very impressed. Sorry, I'm having an imaginary argument with Jimmy in the comment section. All right, so awkward game here. Yeah, a bit of, where are we going? Brenda? Brenda! Sorry, guys, she's getting old. Yeah, no, sometimes she's lost. She doesn't know what's going on. Her memory isn't what it once used to be. Oh, Karen ended up going down too. Oliveira here has a very good shot at winning the game. He's not really in a dominant position yet, but okay, well, these blinding clouds are really painful. He doesn't have any ghost mixed in yet, which surprises me a little bit. We're gonna have to micro very well against these banelings. I think Serral might just be a little too solid here. Zerg can counterattack in the meantime, doing a bit of damage. Yeah. I think if he had a couple of EMPs available against those Vipers, this would have been really, really nice for the Terran. It's still a good game for the Terran, don't get me wrong. But that fight overall was not bad for Zerg. Like, that was almost meant to kill the Zerg player, and now Serral gets to transition towards one Swarm Host. That's a misclick. Definitely does not mean to make one Swarm Host here, but it's one of the scariest parts in the game that Serral just managed to survive. That being said, though, there's a lot more aggression where that came from for the Terran. And now it's gonna be in addition with, yeah, that Marine Marauder Ball. We're gonna have some Ghosts, we're gonna have some Liberators. +3/+3 upgrades are on the horizon. Terran is still improving their unit composition. Serral going for one Infestor. But, yeah, I mean, one Infestor can still change the tide of battle, of course. But that's basically because he has to smash his piggy bank just to get one of those units going, which is not really a situation you ever want to be in when you're playing a Ling Bane-based army. So, excellent stuff right here by Oliveira. 5TC set up right now. We're just gonna play the big macro game. Really? Okay. I'm a little surprised. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be, right? But I'm a little surprised with the amount of players that seem to be comfortable right now playing the long macro game against guys like, for example, Serral. I've seen it go wrong for years now. Then again, I guess Serral is pretty much single-handedly responsible to getting Zerg nerfed like 14 times over the last couple of years. So maybe that's why a lot more players are comfortable playing the macro game against him. But historically, let's just say that his track record is insane when it comes to playing late game. Alright, Ling Bane, run by, ready to set up. A big attack at the very least on the left side of the map. This is still definitely a really nice shot though for Oliveira. Yeah. Lately, we haven't seen a lot of those mech transitions in the late game of Zerg versus Terran. I would like to see some more of it, but... Okay, Liberator here set up. Ravager still trying their best. Ling Banes, yeah, trying to get something done over here in the middle of the map, but not really achieving much. Okay, good movement here by Terran, though. Once again, backing up at the perfect moment, fighting off creep. Yes, that's a lot of expensive units going down on the side of the Terran, but the Terran at this point is a lot wealthier than the Zerg. Good fights, though, overall by Serral. It's just that it's not really creating a lot of headway, you know? Like, he's got all of this army once again cleaned up, but we're still talking about a Terran player who's up in supply, up in upgrades, up in basically every way in the game. And he's gonna have to, Zerg that is, he's gonna have to get an overwhelming win in one of those engagements, and so far Oliveira is just not giving it to him. Yep, very good control right here by the World Champ. Great splits there as well, by the way, in those medevacs. It's so easy to mess that up. Ravagers right now are getting sniped by Ghosts, and that's when you know the Terran's feeling pretty confident. Stims forward right here, goes after the center base. There is a new expansion that just finished up in the top right-hand corner for Serral. And that is where Oliveira has got his eyes set next. Scans, get rid of the creep tumor. Slowly macros forward. There's still one Infestor over here. We have one Swarmhost as well, okay. Alright, somehow he found the APM to get all of it done. Yeah, I don't like the way that Serral actually played this game. Which I feel like is blasphemy, okay? I just, you know, I know there's a lot of followers of the Church of Serral in the comment section, and I'm really one of you guys, okay? This transition from Roach Ravager into Ling Bane with Viper and all that, I'm just not a fan of it. It put him pretty far behind. GG is cold. It's Oliveira who wins a very well-played game number 2. El Cyane is next. Standard opener right here for Oliveira. Serral, however, has decided to go for a nice and quick spawning pool, so he's already got Zerglings running across the map. There should be a Marine on the back of it, but this is still 6 Zerglings, so this command center on the low ground can actually be in some trouble. A little bit of a switch up here. Yeah, this CC actually super annoying. Marine, hello, hello, get off the depot. Oh, that's a big problem. Those depots should have been lifted. Now the command center on the low ground may very well not be able to finish. Second Marine also available though. Nah, I think it will finish eventually. That was a little overly dramatic by me. The Reaper, yeah, wanted to go back home. Now it's once again going across. Annoying start right here for Oliveira, for sure. Okay, he decides to go straight into a third command center, though. Getting the scout of this would be kind of nice for Serral. I think he should be able to see it. Reaper, in the meantime, getting a bit of work done. No, he does not actually see the third CC. Okay. So all things considered, actually pretty decent still for Oliveira, considering he kind of messed up the supply depot situation. Okay, so let's talk about that Roach Ravager style, right? So Serral in the previous game wanted to play Ling Bane, but he played Ling Bane after playing Roach Ravager. So why play Roach Ravager in the first place? First off, I think it's like a stylistic choice that can throw Terran players off a little bit, right? It's one of those things where Terrans don't play against Roach Ravager nearly as much as they do against Ling Bane openers, so it may just feel a little bit strange. Because of that, you can kind of inch ahead a little bit. It's a small thing, but yeah, it can help you get into a mid game and a late game a little bit more comfortably. However, there are vulnerabilities to playing that Roach Ravager style. Because that Ling Bane army is so late, attacks like the one that Oliveira went for in the previous game are very powerful. It's well spotted right there by Oliveira. He saw what he was playing against and he executed that brilliantly. I'm not a huge fan of the Roach Ravager into Ling Bane style, mostly because of that, right? Now, obviously, if you're playing Roach Ravager and you're going up against, say, a mech opener instead. So there's once again a Roach Warren. Say you're playing against a mech opener instead. We've seen some Cyclone all-ins. We've seen some Hellbats pushes, right? There's quite a few early game cheeses that Terrans like to go for. All of them are much easier to hold with a Roach Ravager-based army compared to a Ling Bane-based army. So that's maybe one of the reasons why Serral has decided to go, yeah, for this Roach style instead. Or maybe in the previous game, something just went wrong for him, right? Maybe he... So I mentioned the timing of the Hive. He was, I think, like 20 seconds later on the Hive than he could have been because he decided to make like 13 roaches seemingly randomly. Maybe he looked at his opponent's army, he's like, yo, there's an aggressive push coming across the map. I need to make these 13 roaches right now. He delayed his lair. He delayed the Hive Rodder, and then ultimately he didn't have the Vipers in time. Maybe if he would have done it all at the perfect moment, he would have gone for like the 645 Hive or so. He would have been able to have the Vipers out with energy against that siege tank based push, and then the lack of a roly-poly upgrade wouldn't have mattered. I'm not exactly sure. We'll find out in this game exactly what the plan is. Because this is once again basically an identical opener here for Serral. There's the Evo Chambers, Lair coming up. If we're once again going +1 missile, +1 carapace, I think we'll probably see a much faster Hive. And with much faster, I mean like 20 seconds faster. But honestly, when you think about it, those Vipers, if they would have been available in the previous game, with that very first Terran attack, I think he would have been A-okay. So we'll see. So far though, similar style once again here from Oliveira. Nothing all too different. Yeah, it's once again just going to be 5 barracks, 1-1 upgrade, stimp pack. We have the combat shields upgrade coming up. Fully expecting an infestation pit. Yep, there we go. To go down right now for Serral. So I don't know the exact timing of the Hive in the previous game. I think it was like 6:58 or so, right? It was just pre 7 minutes. I think we'll probably see him go into the Hive as soon as the infestation pit is done. It's small margins. Yep, so maybe that's why Serral is considering that previous game a loss, right? It was a loss because of his miss macro, more so than anything else, and maybe that's why he's doing the exact same strategy once again. There's the Baneling Nest. Hive right now. We're dancing right now. No, we just end up with, well, a 5-second sooner Hive timing. One thing he did also do, which is a bit interesting, and then I'll shut up about this entire Roach Ravager situation, okay? He got the Hive tech and he decided to prioritize other things that weren't Vipers. So I think that also didn't really help him out. I'm curious to see if he's gonna go into straight Vipers as soon as the Hive is done. Maybe I'm talking a little bit too strategic in this cast, I'm not sure. Then again, whenever I mention that, people are like, no, Lowko, I love the strategic thinking. There's always a couple people, though, that probably get annoyed at it, but it's okay. You can't please everybody. I've been making videos for a long time, man. That's one thing I learned in my first year of making videos. It's been a long time. Started making this, I started making videos actually in 2008. I know. I was like 12, dude. Okay, I wasn't 12 in 2008, but still, kind of felt like I was 12. At least when I look back at my videos from the early days. Very cringe. Anyhow, Marine attack continues over here. Mostly does a little bit of creep clearing. Oliveira can certainly go for the same push that he did in the previous game. Okay, nice council over here on that base. Hive at this point, by the way, is done. There's the Vipers first. So now he is prioritizing Vipers. Yeah. I think in the previous game he went Adrenal Glands before Vipers. Small things. Very small things. But ultimately, it does mean, though, ultimately, that those Vipers now are going to be like 20 seconds earlier than in the previous game. Something along those lines. Maybe it's slightly more, slightly less, I'm not exactly sure, but it's something along those lines. And now, here's that Terran push coming across the map again. I think Serral will have Blinding Clouds available. So let's see how this goes. This was still not flawless execution here for the finisher. He also does have Baneling speed, by the way, this time around. There's the Vipers with their Blinding Cloud energy right now being accumulated. There is a Liberator push coming here as well from the bottom. Yep, there's the Blinding Cloud right now on one of the siege tanks at the very least. I'm still not in love with this particular opener from Serral, but I do think it looks a lot more powerful than the previous game. Yeah, so small changes here ultimately lead towards very large results. Now suddenly Oliveira has to drive home because hij ziet de bui hangen, weet je wel? Okay, you guys don't know Dutch sayings? There's a Dutch saying called... I'm gonna Google the English equivalent. Zie de bui hangen. English. See the mood hanging? That doesn't seem like a correct English translation. Basically, he can tell what the future is gonna look like. So he decided to unsiege his tanks and drive back home because he knew exactly what was gonna happen there. He sees the stormy weather ahead. He sees the potential for disaster. I guess that's a more literal translation, but fair enough. There's probably a better English equivalent than that. Maybe for the foreseeable future, whenever I see an opportunity, I need to, like, teach you guys some Dutch sayings. Some of them are very appropriate to games of StarCraft 2, and I don't quite know the English equivalent. I'll just go with the Dutch equivalent instead, okay? Within like a year or so, assuming you keep watching the videos, everything will make sense. Big attack right here from Oliveira, by the way. This is a maxed out Terran army. Now the Ghost Academy is coming up, but the creep has been cleared out with that previous attack. I really like this path that Oliveira has carved for himself towards the other side of the map. Look at the siege tank spread over here as well. He is inviting the Zerg player to collapse on top of it, and Serral decides to accept the invitation. Blinding Clouds right here, though, are landed on top of a lot of the tanks. Not every single one of them here is capable of firing, and I do think that Serral just has enough stuff. Ultralisk transition on the back of this as well. Not something that Terran's quite prepared for yet, but the ghosts are coming. Important hold right there for the finisher for sure. Drilling Claws once again on the back of this, +3/+3. Okay. Yeah, +3 armor together with chitinous plating here is really quite nice. It still feels to me like that Roach Ravager start. I said I was gonna shut up about it. I told you I didn't. Anyways, I told you I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I understand the idea. I guess it was just a mis-execution in game 2. It does kind of feel like it needlessly makes the game more complex though. But anyways, Planetary Fortress ends up going down. And this is looking really tough right now for Oliveira. Yeah. So where exactly did it go wrong here for the Terran? It's honestly hard to say. He didn't really deal a lot of damage with his early game harassment because he couldn't, because of the Roach Ravager. So again, maybe it's good. I have a love-hate relationship right now with the Roach Ravager build, apparently. Yeah, he couldn't really get a lot of damage done in the earliest stages of the game. He saw that he had an opportunity to go for an attack, and then ultimately he carved a path right here where he got rid of a lot of the creep, and then he went for a follow-up attack that wasn't all in. Maybe if that would have been accompanied by like a drop over on the left side of the map, or some sort of economical damage, because he did send in Liberators, but those Liberators were cleaned up with relative ease. Now he's finding himself at least a little bit on the back foot. Yeah, now Zerg can start rolling across the map. +3 infantry armor here coming up. It's also possible that Oliveira made a few macro slip-ups, to be honest. I haven't really been paying as close an attention to him, because I've been obsessed with the Roach Ravager push, apparently. But anyways, here we go. Yeah, no, this is maybe an attack right here that Oliveira can hold for now, but it's only wave number 1 of like a 7-layer attack, you know what I mean? So SCVs are going down. We do get a snipe on the hedge here, so that's nice. It's just that there's so many more Zerg units right now on the production tab, and Serral can make even more. I wouldn't mind seeing a few more Ultras here coming up, yeah, especially with those Ghosts now down the drain. Push over here gets cleaned up as well with some of the reinforcing Zerglings. We have a Spire coming up, just in case, I guess, we need some Liberator counters. Here's the Zerg reinforcements, though. So many links. They're not even fully upgraded yet. So I guess that makes it okay here for Oliveira, all things considered, but there's just wave after wave after wave of Zerg, and there it is. Game number 3 goes in favor of Serral. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map Oceanborn. This time around, Oliveira did send out an SCV scout ahead of the Reaper, so he knows that it's not going to be a spawning pool first. Even though he did manage it relatively well in the previous game, it is much easier to just send that SCV across the map to confirm whether or not it's a pool first or a hedge first. Factory on the back of it together with a reactor, safety marine here as well. We'll probably see a third command center and some Hellion production here momentarily for our Terran. There is technically a lot more variety that's possible in the early game for Terran, but yeah, this really has become the standard once again. I wouldn't mind maybe seeing him go for a second barracks rather than a starport in this game. That's been something that Terrans have been mixing in as well, where they go for like a triple CC 2-1-1 type of opener. It's like a mix of very popular styles. I've seen quite a bit of success with that particular build over the last few months, but it's going to be a starport here once again together indeed with a third command center, and we'll probably see a Hellion or two momentarily. Apparently we're going to save up money here to be able to have 2 of them in sync rather than going for the first one a little bit quicker. Okay. So are we going to see a Roach Warren once again? I would like to at least see a little bit more of it now, because it... I like the idea of the Roach Warren, I guess, in the sense that you can't really take a lot of damage in the earlier stages of the game, but it also seems like it hangs together by just a thread, right? Like you're on a razor's edge the entire time, because if you make one macro slip up and somehow, some way your Vipers are late, you're in a lot of trouble against that Terran push that will basically come across the map in most games. Cloaking Field once again coming up here for Oliveira. This time around, though, it's a Viking first, and this will get scouted as well by Serral. It's always funny to me whenever we see a Banshee opener with a Viking first, because now it's out of sync. So it turns out you can produce exactly 2 Banshees in the amount of time that the Cloaking Field takes to research. So now it's completely out of sync. It doesn't really matter that much, but I do always like seeing the second Banshee pop right as that Cloaking Field upgrade finishes up. It's a smooth little thing, it just looks nice. But the Viking messes all of that up, obviously. He's going to be able to get the kill on the Overlord here and, well, potentially cancel the upgrade now if he wants to. He does not decide to cancel the upgrade, by the way. Serral is mixing it up here, going into the lair together with the Baneling Nest. So he'll be going for a more conventional style here. Maybe a little concerned that his opponent is going to consider him like a one-trick pony if he decides to do the same thing again. I guess he already mixed in a Baneling bust, but that was more like a reactionary Baneling bust right there from Serral. So this is definitely an easier style for Zerg players to execute. You go for the lair at an appropriate time, you go for the Baneling Nest, and then when you finish up the lair, you go for the Baneling Speed, you go for like a safety Overseer, maybe an Overseer Scout, and then eventually the double upgrades. Generally though, you do go for the Baneling Nest upgrade now, as soon as the lair finishes, so right now. There we go. It's actually a little bit cheaper these days. I always still look at it and I'm thinking it's 150, but it's not. No, it's relatively cheap. There's the Overseer as well, so this is technically a bit vulnerable to a couple different styles from Terrans. I found, for example, that if you go up against like a Cyclone opener, this is actually kind of tough to play. Although that might just be because it's an uncommon strategy and I haven't had a lot of practice. Same for like a Hellbat type of push. Yeah, anyways, here come the Hellions. Really? We're gonna drive this deep onto creep? I was gonna say, that seems overly ambitious. Really just trying to force out additional Zerglings here from the Zerg player. So Oliveira, once again, happy to play the macro game. Oh. A little bit of a hole over here in the wall. The Roach opener, by the way, is also vulnerable to, like, say, for example, like a concussive shelled Marauder opener. Not very common all in at the moment, but certainly something that Terrans like to mix in. You know what? Despite the fact, yeah, this is, I think, a result from what we saw in the previous game of this series, or the previous games, rather. Serral ended up going up against a Terran who cancelled that Cloaking Field upgrade. Now Oliveira didn't cancel, at least from Serral's point of view, it was the Cloaking Field upgrade. It obviously was the Interference Matrix research then at the time instead, but anyways. Maybe Serral also making the assumption that there's a good chance it will indeed be cancelled once more. He decided to skip the Spore Crawler over at the 4th base, and that cost him quite dearly. 9 workers here for 2 Banshees is not bad whatsoever. This Banshee is going to be able to chill over here at the bottom and at the very least be a nuisance in times to come as well. 1-1 upgrades finishing up. Armory late. So that Armory is going to delay the 2-2 research. It's going to make life a little bit trickier for Oliveira moving forward. But if he could get the kill on this base, that would be amazing for him. Yeah, one reason why that Armory is nice to have over here too, besides being able to start up the 2-2 research, is because it enables these Hellions to turn into Hellbats. And it would have been a whole lot better here in this fight if they were in Hellbat form rather than in Hellion form. Yeah. Small mistake, significant repercussions. So Serral with this, yeah, look at this. So with the quick lair, right, and the quick Baneling speed, you delay your evolution chamber upgrades. Now all of a sudden, Oliveira had like a 30-second advantage. Now all of a sudden, Serral is the one who starts up 2-2 before the Terran does. Sloppy mistake that happens, honestly, too frequently at this level. Really shouldn't be happening. For some reason, like, it's a problem for, like, any rank of Terran. Like, from Silver League all the way to Oliveira. We see Terrans constantly late with their Armory. It's a bit of a shame. Obviously, there's a lot going on, but it's also something you need to get every single game. And now suddenly, yeah, the Zerg counterattack here is pretty lethal. Burrowed Zergling underneath. Oliveira tries to land it. He's like, it's blocked. Right? That's what you hear. That's what the voice actor says, the little SCV. It's blocked. Very annoying. Siege Tank transition, though, here from Oliveira. So he's not going into Drilling Claws here with a second factor. Oh, he is going into Widowmites. I don't think I love the idea of Widowmines here against a Hydraling Bane army. Main problem is that Hydralisks outrange Widowmines. And Hydras are really quite weak against Siege Tanks. So he's going for a bit of a mix of the two here, which is pretty tricky for the Terran player to balance. Like, how do you decide if you want to go Widowmines and how do you decide if you want to go Siege Tanks? Well, you can make the decision to go both. It's just that they need to have separate hotkeys, and in general, it's significantly harder to micro. Okay. And there's the Infestation Pit. It's about a 10-minute hive this time around, it seems. Okay. Oliveira is gonna just play the passive game here once again. Which, again, makes me a little nervous. Those Banshees did a good bit of damage, but he hasn't really enabled himself to go for a big attack against it. One thing we saw Oliveira doing recently, which I kind of liked, was a 3-base, 8 barracks all-in. Obviously, that's not possible anymore since he's already on 4 bases, but I think that's a pretty cool style to play. albeit one that sometimes requires a bit of luck. But against this sort of Terran, or against this sort of Zerg style, where Zerg is really trying to cut it as close as possible, it does have a lot of potential. Lurker Den on the horizon. Liberators and Ghosts are coming up. The Terran making a transition towards a late game army, and so is the Zerg. Ling Bane is set up as well on the other side of the map though. Maybe they're ready to go after this particular attack. Looks like Oliveira is actually preparing for it. So he's predicting this army movement and he catches it. Lovely work. We do have some burrowed Banelings right now underground. Making use of that burrow upgrade is something that Zerg players have only really started doing over maybe the last year or two. It's very powerful, it just requires a lot of attention. Ooh, this is a fight up a ramp right now into a Terran, but the Terran is not yet sieged up. I don't think I love that attack though. No, great splits right there from Oliveira. Zerglings are gonna need to go all the way back home, it looks like. Do we have any burrowed Banes over here? Not the case. Oliveira just walks onto creep. My god, that was so risky. I don't know if he's seen any of the burrowed Banelings yet, but that could have been an absolute disaster for him, moving through a choke point like that. Missed opportunity for Serral, I guess, but then again, he probably assumed his opponent would always be scanning before entering the creep. Zerglings thinking about setting themselves up with a surround. Terran coming around the back. Oliveira thinking about fighting in this choke point, but he also needs to be very cautious. Lurker upgrades here on the production tab, so Serral is going to be making that split, and we're going to actually go into a 5th command center now on the left. Okay. That's why Oliveira is almost like parking his army right over here. Jimmy and his pals floating to the surface. Big Zergling counter-attack though, yeah. So Oliveira decided to suddenly slow down his aggression. Took a bit of a breather. Gets a whole lot of drone kills over here on the other side of the map though, so that's quite nice. It's just that now his SCVs are going down as well in the meantime on the other side. So 2 hatcheries down the drain. A lot of SCVs are going down too, plus these Zerglings still have not been addressed. Now they have the adrenal glands upgrade as well, so suddenly they get like a 40% attack speed improvement, which is kind of like Stimpack for Zerglings, I guess. Insanely powerful upgrade. Oh no, the links are just in the main base. Oliveira, yeah, you may... Oh, he hasn't even secured this base. There's a pesky Zergling underneath here too. Oliveira is falling apart. Serral purposefully giving up 2 bases here, forcing the Terran player to slow down their aggression, blocks the 5th base on the left, and does a mass Lingbane counter-attack while transitioning to Lurkers. I think the original plan was to wait until Lurkers were out, but he doesn't need it. GG is called, and it's Serral who obtains the victory, 3-1.